Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh Christmas special. Today, I'll be talking to Gary Cosby. Gary's a photojournalist, but what inspires me about Gary is his article, which he just wrote recently about the greatest gift that Christmas is love. Some of us take that word for granted. You hear it, so we throw it around to people randomly, whether we mean it or not. But love means so much if you take your time to understand it. This Christmas, if you live in England, London, for example, we're on tier two. And what does that mean? It means that we're in lockdown and we have to spend Christmas by ourselves. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't love. That doesn't mean we shouldn't embrace, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't appreciate. Love comes in different forms. If you can't love your family because they're too far, if you can't reach out to them right now, you can show love to other people. Gary Cosby will be telling us about his own journey and why the word love has brought his family together. Meet Gary. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Christmas special, Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. I have Gary Cosby here, all the way from United States, Alabama. He'll be telling us about his article, which I read and I found really inspiring, and I'm so sure most of you will. The greatest gift of all time, especially during this holiday, is love. Gary, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Ann.
How is the weather out there? Are you guys enjoying the cold? And how is that going?
Well, today it's about 60 degrees and very beautiful, so we'll take this. I'm not a cold weather person, so I'm happy to have this weather.
Yeah, so that's nice then. I'm really glad that you joined me, but I won't go straight to the article. I wanted to first, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Gary?
I ask myself that question some days too. Um, Basically, I'm 57 years old. I'm married with 8 children, and they are spread quite literally all over the world at this point. I'm a photojournalist. I have been for 31 years, and I have only recently begun writing a column for the Tuscaloosa News. I've
Hmm.
been writing a column for about 2 years, and maybe 2.5 years. So I guess that's me.
Yeah, that's enough. That's a lot to take in. I mean, how did you get into journalism? I think now it's almost something we take for granted right now because so many people are doing it. But people forget the behind the scene, the real hard work that really goes into really understanding journalism. How did you get into it?
Um, when I originally had planned on being a firefighter and just taking up photography as a sideline, and I had been a volunteer fireman in the little town I grew up in. But when I went to college, my mother wanted me to try accounting, but my mathematical skills are, shall we say, inadequate. And I had the camera that I had bought with my money from graduation, and so I decided to try photography, and that led eventually to a career in journalism and photojournalism.
Wow, that is really good. The COVID this year has been a very unusual year. It's been unusual for many people across the world with the pandemic. How has that affected you?
Oh, this it's been dramatic. Everything about my job changed this year. I mean, I haven't stopped working except for when I had COVID. Fortunately, a mild case that I, I suppose I had it over Thanksgiving. So but my wife and I both had it at about the same time, and we're both better. So that being good. But in terms of work, it's literally changed everything. We have seldom been to the office since March, and we've done all of our work from home, which is not dramatically unusual for me, but it changed everything about the way we approach
Mm.
people, and it changed everything about the way we approach events, which most of were canceled this year. We've had very little of what would typically be going on in a year.
So, would your family be joining you for Christmas this year?
Um, well, we're trying to work out where some of us can be together. On Christmas Eve, we typically go to my parents' house. They live about 2 hours away from us, and we're trying to make sure we can do that and keep our crowd size down to a very small number, and social distance and all those things that we have to do to even hope to enjoy some family.
Yeah.
But let's see, I think 4 of our children are not going to be able to come. Um, One's in the military, and so he's not in the continental United States. And then we have 3 daughters who are spread from East Coast to West Coast, and they of course won't be here. So we'll be doing a Zoom or something like that to say hello to everyone on Christmas Day. So.
Yeah, Gary, I have to go to your article right now because one of the things I really stopped me with yourself is that you wrote this article, the greatest gift at Christmas is love. And so many families will be thinking about this and saying, oh gosh, I would love to love my family, but they're not close by. I would love to do all these kinds of things. Why did you write that? And why did you use the word love?
Well, part of it has to do with my faith, and part of it just has to do with loving my family. I mean,
Mm.
love is and should be, I hope, the most commonly shared theme across all of humanity, regardless of where you live and who you are. We all love our families, or attempt our families. Sometimes that can become difficult, but you know, at, at Christmas time, to me, the theme of Christmas is love. I've always felt that way, and you know, when I look back on life, one of my biggest ambitions was to have a family. And I have way bigger family than I expected to have, and it's been such an amazing blessing to me. I just wanted to put that in a form that I thought a lot of people could appreciate.
Yeah, no, that's really very, very thoughtful of you. What about families right now? What would be your advice to families out there? I think even you're the same kind of position as well. You say 4 of your kids might not be joining you. What would be your advice to these families whose family might not be able to join them? How could they utilize the love within themselves to still have a wonderful Christmas?
Well, I think when I look back on uh, we lost a child when he was 2 years old. And that is probably what I look back on when I think about the question asked, because I still love him with everything in me, and I can barely talk about it still, but I miss him terribly, but I know he is still part of me.
Mhm.
And he's in heaven. He's still part of me, and I'm part of him. And we look forward to a day when we can have a reunion. And this is COVID is a temporary situation. We will overcome COVID. The world will come out the other side of this, as we have done in every other situation that's ever us. And this is a temporary situation that we simply have to endure for a while. But it is a temporary thing. And I think that's the best news for all of us, is that we may have to endure some separation for a short time. We may have to make phone calls this Christmas, Zoom meetings, or whatever we have to do to make contact with those we love. But we will eventually be able to come back together and be, I hate to use the word normal, because normal doesn't really mean anything. It just means what we're accustomed to. But we will eventually get back to something that's more like what we're accustomed to.
Yeah. And how's your faith helped you? Because for me, I'm very I'm a Christian as well, and my faith has helped me, guided me through this whole thing. It's kept me balanced. It's kept me in check. How has your own faith helped you and your family during this difficult time?
Well, absolutely. I mean, ultimate expression of love in all of creation is God's gift to man at Christmas time, in the person of Christ. And we say these things, and they're as real to us as we can make them, but really we have no conception of what it is to give a life to redeem others. And the mystery of God is kind of encapsulated in all that, but it's the greatest expression of love that you can have. And that, when we look around, and I wrote in my column that, it's kind of missing the point to think that gifts are love. Gifts can express our love, but when we look into the faces of those we love, we see we is. And when we view God and his love for us, there's just no, I guess there's no sacrifice too great
Mm.
that it will ever eclipse that love, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I feel that as well, especially now because you get to a sense where what does a Christmas present mean now? It's not about the presents anymore. It's about the physical presence of the human being that means the
Sure.
because I think everyone's realizing that we all
Yeah.
thought it was the present and the gift. Which I read your article where you said it's important. Yeah, we want to support the shops because it's important we keep the stores alive. But in the true meaning of things, it's really the love of having your family there to give them a big hug. Your final message of hope, Gary, what would you say to people out there who are spending Christmas alone? What would be your greatest lessons of love, of message of hope that you could share with people?
Well, even though we're going to be missing some family members this year, we're never really truly alone. Our faith in God gives us the person of God in our hearts all the time. And that love is always there. Sometimes it feels a little more remote than it does at other times, but we always have God's love in us. And, when we look around in our communities, I just did a story last night about a lady who goes out, and she's not rich. Okay. She goes out into the community and she feeds homeless people 2 or 3 times a week. And a lot of it came out of her own pocket. And, the police department decided to bless her and her family at Christmas. And, we can express our love. We may not be able to see people we love at Christmas time, but, there's probably someone we can reach out to. Maybe we can make a phone call to somebody that we know is alone, or maybe we can volunteer to help some people at Christmas time. The whole thing is in giving love, we receive love in return. That I've heard all my life in church that you can't outgive God, and certainly you can't outgive God when it comes to love. It's just the ultimate expression that we can. It's like, in the article I said, God is love, and we can't claim to know God if we don't love others. And that's the expression, is to love others through actually doing things for them, helping them, being kind, or sometimes it's just somebody in a store or wherever you are. There's just a million ways, once we stop to think about it, to express love to one another.
That is so thoughtful. I love that message because I didn't think about it that way. You just summarized that. That it's not just waiting for that perfect moment. It's not just waiting for your family to give them that love. You could express it in so many different ways. And God has abundant love for all of us. Gary Cosby, I really appreciate this. And I really wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for asking me to be a part of your show, Ann, and I really appreciate it. And Merry Christmas to you and to all you love.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gary.